Kimberly and
Hello, welcome guys. Welcome back to another episode.
Welcome back. So Hannah, let's talk. You've been with me for, I guess, 3-4 months now?
Yeah, right? Just about that. A few months, yeah.
Okay. And I guess I just am curious what your take on what real estate looks like now that you are kind of in the weeds. I think you're pretty up to speed, pretty familiar with, you do a lot of the marketing, but now you've gotten a few transactions under your belt, right?
Yes. Still learning the ropes, but
listen, I'm still learning the ropes. I made an error today on a pretty simple, transaction, and I've been doing this almost 10 years, so it's constantly changing. But yeah, you're getting in there.
Yeah, and I've honestly learned so much the past few months, and it's funny because before I got this job, before I started working in real estate with you, the only real estate experience that I really had was watching real estate shows on TV. So my parents and I would watch HGTV all the time, and I would see all of the transactions that occurred there, but it really wasn't a transaction. It was more so like in the show, the buyers would say, "Oh, I want this house," and the agent will be like, "Okay, cool. Let's get you the house." And then all of a sudden, 2 seconds later, they have the house and they're moved in, and they say, "Oh, this is what we did. This is how much we paid." And, because of that, I, had this notion that real estate was, a very simple transaction. It definitely simplifies it for television, but because of that, I had no idea. And now that I've, been involved in it personally, I know just how much goes into it now and how much back and forth there is between agents, clients, businesses, and how much paperwork goes into it. And, it's not just a couple days, which I thought it was only a few days of a transaction. You send a few things back and forth and you're done. But, it's it could be weeks, months, it doesn't, you don't know. So it's really opened my eyes to what real estate really is. And I think that there is such a distinction between what's portrayed and what is reality. I mean, with anything, but especially with real estate. Yeah. Because you don't see that on TV at all.
You don't see it. And, I preach this all the time about how important it is that you hire an experienced agent. But we don't get down into the weeds. So let's get into the weeds a little bit about what can go wrong in a transaction, because I think that, I think I say that and people think like my transaction was easy, right? Or they think like, oh, no big deal. But I think the scary part of it is buyers and sellers can go through a transaction and they probably don't see a lot of it because their agent can I think a good agent will protect their client, right? Like a lot of our clients don't necessarily see, what save them from or protect them from. And I think, and I hate to use the word bad agent, I want to say inexperienced agent can do the same thing. But what's scary is that a buyer and seller can leave so much money on the table either way and never know it. Yeah. Because they don't realize what's happening behind the scenes, right?
Exactly.
So good example today, we just closed on a transaction this morning, and they went with a lender that we advised them not to. Didn't really advise them not to, but we always give our clients options with lenders, inspectors, right? That's our job. Yeah. It's not our job to push them in a direction, but to give them options. Yeah. They chose a lender that we don't love to work with, and we told them why, but they wanted to use this lender, and we said happy to work with them.
Yeah, we respected their decision.
Right. Yeah. And in the end, they found out why. But appraisal fell short. Yeah. Okay. And we negotiated to actually work through that. But they told us literally, what they say, 15 minutes before closing. Yeah. Lender called and said, "Hey, we need to talk about this appraisal." And 15 minutes before closing.
And the client was like, yeah, dude, we knew this.
What the hell? Right? They're like, yeah, our agent's already on it. Yeah. Had we not been on top of that, they would have had to be bringing a huge check to the closing table. Yeah.
there would have been so much that would have still needed to be done, or like so many more questions.
They would have been screwed because we were already outside of due diligence.
Exactly.
But, we were on top of it and we negotiated and took care of it. But, it's like there literally was nothing that they could have done to protect themselves.
And that was the whole thing of, shows like that, they don't show that there can be complications. Correct. And that's why people sometimes don't have proper standards with agents, because they don't know what they're looking for. Like we talked about last week is, they are just seeing, this representation of like, oh, it's so easy, it's so simple. And yes, the agents can make it, as easy on the clients as possible, but there's still so much that goes into it that needs to be understood.
It needs to be understood. And they don't, again, it goes back to they don't know what to ask, right?
They don't know what standards to have.
Standards.
Yeah. I mean, that's the whole thing is, standards for agents, and, we've been talking about like self-standards too. Because you're an agent, you need to have those standards for yourself so that you can put your best self out there for your clients, you know? And I'm just curious to know like what kind of standards that you set for yourself, because I see these agents on TV shows like Selling Sunset. We've been talking about that. They dress gorgeous, their outfits are cute. But in my head, I watch that and I'm like, Kimberly never dresses like that. I'm like, she always, she has cute clothes, she has the bougie clothes and stuff, but it's never, you know what I mean. It's never.
I love me some Selling Sunset.
Of course.
Matter of fact, I go home at night, usually eat me a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and watch me some Selling Sunset. That's like my guilty pleasure. But no, my daughter actually walked in and she was like, Mom, like, what is this? What is she wearing or what is she not wearing, right? And that's just, the OC life, I guess. But that it does go back to, I am running a client's financial transaction through my hands, right? And it's in the upwards of $1 million, $2 million, or $200,000, and it's their largest transaction. And so I find that I need to hold myself to a higher standard.
Definitely.
And therefore you won't see drunken photos of me on Facebook, because I'm not going to put myself in a position where it's inappropriate. And I push that down to my children. My children get very upset with me because, and you can ask them, they're not allowed to wear pajama pants to school. All their friends are, but you will not see a Majet child in public in pajama pants, because I'm like, you're not going to school to sleep.
Yeah. That's such a valid thing too.
You're just not. And I'm like, I think that, when you need to hold yourself to a higher standard. Yeah. And do they like me for it? No. But thankfully I have enough friends. So I don't need them to be my friend.
Yeah, I mean, and all of your friends, they all, hold themselves to those standards as well.
100%.
I'm just like Brittany off the top of my head, she is dressed to the nines all the time.
100%. Listen,
so,
that girl, yes.
Yeah, and like, I honestly, because of working with you and just, having this job, I've honestly started to set higher standards for myself as well. And just thinking about like dressing, I'm guilty. In high school, I did go to school in pajamas sometimes. Sometimes there were days where I was like, okay, especially during senior year, I was like, senioritis has hit me right now. Not doing it. Yeah. But, just seeing how, sometimes we have those days where we'll go and like, do a hike and like record it or whatever. Right. Those sorts of days, or where we're cleaning, something like that, where it's okay to like, chill out a little bit. But, for the most part, I see you come in and I'm like, she's ready to work. Yeah. Even if mentally we might not be. Right. Well,
it's funny. I heard somebody say something, and I can't quote who it was, but it stuck with me. They said, fly first class one time. Okay. And the mentality behind it is if you fly first class one time, you get up there and it's just a different mentality. It pushes you, right? Because you get up there and everybody in first class is dressed different, right? They're usually working. They're usually like, you push yourself to a different standard. And it's not that you're better than anyone else by any means, because nobody's better than anyone else. But when it's like just like what you just said, right? When you come in and you're dressed different and you, if you don't feel like working, but you force yourself to get up, that's why we come into an office every day. That's why we don't work from home. Like when I interviewed you and I was like, we don't work from home. Yeah. Because you don't feel like working every day. That's what I tell my children. Like, I don't feel like working every day. Yeah. But I get up, I get dressed, I come to the office, and there's something that it does. It triggers it in you.
It does. Yeah.
You know, and so it's like, all right, hey, let's do this.
Yeah.
You know?
And that is like the perfect explanation, you know, and I've talked to people who say, you know, if you don't have motivation to go to the gym, if you just put your clothes on,
just go.
If you just, you know, make that first step to, you know, doing it, it makes the world a difference. It actually, it like, has that switch in your brain where it's like, okay, I'm just gonna do this. Yeah. You know, and I mean, like, nobody exactly like wants to work every single day, you know, nobody feels incredibly motivated every single day. But if you like look and you feel confident in yourself, it can make the world a difference.
Well, and that's where it goes back to holding myself to a higher standard. Definitely. Because, you know, when I'm representing my buyers or sellers, I'm representing them. And that's why, you know, when I go on a listing appointment, when I go on a buyer appointment, which I always do in person, you know, I truly feel like when I'm out in public, I'm out at the grocery store, I'm out at a restaurant, I'm representing my clients. And, you know, if I, you know, my financial advisor, he represents me. So I would not want to see him drunk on Facebook because, you know, I've entrusted him with my money, with my investments. So you're damn right I'm going to hold him to a higher standard.
Definitely.
And if he can't, then I'm going to fire him.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, like you said, you never know who you're going to run into in public either.
You never know who you're going to run into in public.
You could run into a potential client who said, oh, maybe I could work with Kimberly, and then they see you doing some weird stuff or whatever, and you're like, they're like, okay, never mind, we'll find someone else.
Well, the other side of this too is I didn't realize when I got into real estate how important it was to have relationships with other realtors. So, you know, it's like you just never know if I'm going to be out in public acting a fool, you know, you could be there and you might have a buyer for my client, right? And so are you going to want to work with me if I'm acting like that? You know, and so it's just, I think, like you said, standards, we are to be held to a higher standard.
Definitely.
If we're going to be in this profession.
And it's funny, like when you were talking about that, I just thought about, you know, going back to selling Sunset, how, you know, if they have like a broker's open or something and they are bringing potential buyers, potential sellers or whatever, and they're having all this drama go down where
that's the only reason we watch it is for the drama.
I mean, yes, we can enjoy it from the sidelines, but it doesn't mean we're going to be doing all that. You know what I mean? Like, and I know that it's for show, it's for the show, whatever, but it's just so funny to me that people are thinking, I mean, I don't know if people are thinking, but I'm assuming they're thinking that these real estate agents are just so dramatic and they're going to be like, what are they going to be like when I do a transaction with them? You know, if they're screaming at each other like this, if they're screaming at people that they work together with.
No respect.
No respect. And exactly. Having respect for anybody that you work with, like, and like other realtors too. Y'all aren't, you know, pitting against each other, you know what I mean? It's, you know, you have that standard for each other as well. Like, you want to have the agent on the other side be competent and pleasant and everything.
100%. I tell you, when I'm presenting offers, you know this, when we get into a multiple offer situation, there's definitely more to an offer than purchase price.
Definitely.
And part of that is who the agent on the other side of the deal is. If it's a very inexperienced agent, if it's an agent that doesn't know what they're doing, can't get to the table, hasn't closed any deals, I mean, that comes into consideration, right?
Definitely.
Because it's like, if they don't know what they're doing if we can't get a hold of them. I mean, that's,
Yeah.
you've dealt with that, right? Can't get a hold of this agent. Don't know if they're scheduling inspections. Don't know,
Yeah.
you know, where's my earnest money at? They don't understand the contract. Like, it makes our lives very difficult, which means it's going to make our seller's life very difficult.
Yes.
And that comes into consideration, whether we're going to accept that offer or we're going to accept an offer that's slightly lower, because the chances and the percentage of us getting to the closing table is going to be higher.
It's very stressful when you have someone on the other side who isn't giving you what you need. You know, and that's something that I've learned as well, you know, working here is, you know, I want to be very present and respond very quickly and all of this, because I know how stressful it is on the other side of that, and also I just want to do that in general. But, you know, just seeing how, even in my first few transactions, how it's kind of been, you know, and you even said, Hannah, you're going to be working with some interesting people, you know, and I was like, yeah, I mean, really, like, is it going to be that bad?
Weird can it get?
And we're weird, but we're not like that
weird.
You know, like we're the good weird. But yeah, I mean, and you know, it just goes back to like the self-standard, and also, you know, we've been trying to give people advice on the standards that they should have for their agents.
Yeah.
Like, just keep reiterating that, because it's so important.
It's so important. Yeah. Well, and it's disappointing to me when I see people that just jump the gun and hire agents that are unqualified.
Yeah.
And that's, I think that's frustrating. Obviously, we want everyone to hire us, but you know, obviously that's not realistic. And I know there are a bunch of great agents out there.
Definitely.
However, I think that you definitely need to, you know, again, we have a list, and I think that you need to, and you know, just to hit on some of the questions you need to ask, you know, find out how long they've been an agent. They, hire someone that was an agent pre-COVID, you know.
Yes. For the love of gosh, please.
You know, ask them how they're going to market. Ask them how many houses they've sold.
Yes.
You know, I mean, these are just some basic questions.
Yes.
You know,
definitely.
Make sure they should at least be able to explain the contract to you.
Explain something. Something, please.
Right.
And, you know, we don't want people to take that, like, the things that they see in the media with a grain of salt, you know, like, take it with a grain of salt. That's not truly,
it's not reality,
what it's about. Yeah, it's not reality. And just having that, like, perspective of like that distinction between fantasy and reality is so important, just in general. But, you know, especially with this, like, just knowing, you know, that's not going to be what it's going to be like, you know.
Well, what's unfortunate too is I've had some people that reach out after they're in agency with a realtor, and then ask me questions, and I think they get a little frustrated because I don't answer their questions. And I think what you need to understand is, once you're signed with an agent, it's really an ethics violation for me to answer any questions, because I have to honor that agency that you sign with that agent. Yeah. So ask your questions up front. Do your due diligence before you sign with an agent, because one, that's just not fair to that agent. And two, especially once you're already under contract, there's nothing you can do.
There really isn't.
Nothing I can do. Yeah. So do your due diligence up front. You know, do your research. Check more than just even a quick Google search honestly will help. But, you know, interview more than one agent. Yeah. You know, and you at least owe yourself that.
Yeah, and I think going more in depth, like, yes, Google searching and stuff, but like going more in depth to see what kind of media they have, and, you know, what their website looks like, and, you know, what their socials look like. You know, that's another thing that we've kind of learned, you know, while we've been working together, and, you know, just in general, is like, you know, your media can be very, very impactful. Oh, sure. And, you know, that can give people a perception of who you are.
Yeah. Well, and focus more on, you know, their statistics.
Yes.
And less on their commission.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Because,
definitely.
You they can dangle that carrot as far as, oh, I'll do it for X percentage, but a lot of times you're not necessarily getting the same thing. And I think what's a trick that I'll kind of share is agents get business off of just having a sign in your yard.
Yeah.
Right?
Definitely.
So, because people understand, like, why will one agent do it for X amount, but another agent wants this amount? Sometimes they don't care if they sell your house, purely because they're going to get business from having free real estate in your yard.
Yep.
Right? So, just if a sign's in your yard and they're getting buyer calls, they don't care if they sell your house, right? So that could be, one reason why somebody's just got a sign in their yard.
Yeah.
So it's you don't always get hung up on a commission rate because there could be other motivations there.
Yeah.
Right? And so you really need to not get hung up on that. And I think a lot of sellers are hung up on that right now because, one, there's a lot of agents that are falling out of the industry because they don't have a strong marketing package. That is their only negotiating tactic, is to discount themselves, which is something you need to think about. If all they're willing to do is negotiate their money, that's going to be their one and only strategy when it comes to negotiating an offer for you.
Yeah.
And are they really motivated to sell your house for top dollar, or is it just to get their sign in your yard?
Yeah, and that's, we've had a couple of our clients ask, like, that question, what if I could do this with another person? Like, can you
match it? Or but you're not comparing apples to apples.
No.
Right?
Definitely not. Every agent is completely different.
Yeah.
Completely different. And like we've talked about, just making sure that you are doing your due diligence is so important, and just getting out of that perception that you can have and really focusing on the facts and who that person is.
Correct.
And if they're going to be able to do what you need them to do.
Right. Yeah, because again, is there true motivation to sell your home for top dollar to help you meet your real estate goals?
Yeah.
Or is their motivation simply to get a sign in your yard and get what they need?
For them to look good so that way they can, get a bunch of other clients. Like that's
exactly.
Just keep thinking about that.
Yeah.
And just make that distinction.
Yeah. Well, Hannah, you are killing it. I'm loving you being here. You've caught on so quickly.
Thank you so much. I really enjoy it, and I'm learning. Like I just said, I'm learning so much.
Drinking from a fire hose, right?
Yeah. So thank you.
I appreciate you. Yep.
I appreciate you.
And you're gonna hold the fort down for the next couple days. So
yes, the summit. Woo! We'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
It'll be exciting.
We'll see you next week. Thanks, guys.
Bye.